So just in case Larry didn't make this clear, I'm pretty sure he did, this is not about someone else magically doing this for us. It is up to each and every individual in this room to work out how they can empower themselves to change ahead of change and how they can take others on that journey. That, in our view, is a strategic solution to the future of work. Now, how do you do that? We have a particular approach to it that we find is really easy for folks to learn. Most of us use this intuitively in everything that we do, and all we have to do is wake ourselves up to how we already operate in the world. We call that strategy in action, and it works something like this. You start by understanding the conditions in which you're operating, immediate and emergent, and the emergent conditions are the critical stuff. And most people, most organizations don't look into the emergent conditions, apart from maybe we've got a bit of future scenarios, but we don't really look much beyond what's happening 6, 12, maybe 18 months down the track. Understand the emergent operating conditions. Then within those, get really clear about the opportunities and risks. Okay, what's happening in those conditions? What's the value that I might generate by doing something in that context? What capability do I need to actually do whatever it is I think I might want to do? And then what's the catalytic action that I can take to get started? That's strategy in action. It's really simple. Every person in this room practiced that today. Show of hands, how many people didn't wake up in this room this morning? Everybody, you all slept here? No, none of us did, right? We all traveled to this place. How many people wrote down a plan? I'm going to get in my car at 8:57. I'm going to drive. I'm going to change lanes at 9:02. We don't do that, right? We operate in a dynamic flow with the reality of the world as it unfolds around us. Our view is the way of doing strategic planning in the old days is out. We've got to unlock internal strategic capability and bring it alive. And again, it's an embedded algorithm that we believe each person has within themselves. If you're interested in a quick deep dive into it, there's some books floating around in the foyer, and we'll have some available after our workshop today. If folks want to grab a copy of the book, happy to share those with people who are here. Just quickly, for the time remaining, using the diagnostics that we ran one for this summit. We run them in organizations, we run national surveys, we run global surveys. But just a couple of quick insights from our diagnostics about 3 of those elements of strategy in action. So first, the reality of the conditions. This is what people are saying are their top 10 disruptors. That's going to look pretty common to most of what we already see, right? A lot of technology stuff, some stuff around talent, policy, regulation. Sometimes the environment shows up depending on who we're working with. First little sting in the tail, if you like. When we do this work inside organizations or when we do open surveys, we get told very consistently, generally, leaders and key staff are on the same page, but our boards are not. That, for us, is an issue from an organizational perspective when it comes to disruption readiness. If we're not all on the same page, and we don't really have a shared understanding of disruption, how can we create change, and how can we change quickly? 60% roughly of organizations will tell us that they have the right mindset to leverage disruption, to change ahead of change. They then say they don't have a great understanding of what they need to change to in terms of capability development. We've got the right mindset. We're not sure where we need to go. We don't have the skill set that we need. And our culture isn't necessarily conducive to making the kind of change we need to make at the speed and scale at which we need to do it. So when we look at these sorts of responses, we go, there's a bit of work to do things differently. And almost all organizations say that whatever changes there are that they need to make, it has to happen within the next 3 to 5 years. So again, little question. We're going to make dramatic change within the next 3 to 5 years, and we might have the right mindset. We don't know what capabilities we need. We don't have the skill set. And our culture isn't right to enable that change to happen. What are we going to do now? You can't do it at organizational level. You can't do it across policy development. You can't do it just by, fine-tuning education over long change periods. You've got to unlock the individual strategic capability of every person, possibly starting with the 4, 5, and 6-year-olds in the world, and really open them up to acting and thinking in a different way. A couple of final thoughts from us. Again, just to reinforce, there is no magic box. The only option within that box is to learn how to be strategic in the world, that I am strategist concept. And then the last thing that the A&E folks asked us to do today was to offer some quick thoughts about how to be strategic today. Again, tapping into this innate strategic capability. So what we're going to challenge you to do is to listen differently to every conversation you hear. Don't listen for, oh, that's an interesting story about X organization. Listen for conditions. What are people telling you about what's happening now and what's emerging? What can you see in terms of opportunity risk for you and your organization in those conditions? What capabilities might be required for you, for your people, for your organization at scale, particularly in the emerging conditions? And finally, what catalytic action can you take right now to start the journey? Don't write an action plan. Don't spend 6 weeks thinking about it. What could you do today, before the summit finishes, to start on this journey for you, for your people, for your organization? And the final thought around reality and responsibility. Back to that, becoming disruption ready and aware, changing ahead of change, leveraging disruption, generating authentic and sustainable value. And finally, listen really carefully in every conversation from this point forward. Are we telling ourselves lies to make ourselves feel comfortable about the reality that we actually have to face? And are we at risk of going into managed adaptive decline? Thank you, and enjoy the day.